Hi, my name is Yoruba Richen, and I'm a professor and the founder of the documentary program at the Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at the City University of New York. I'm also a filmmaker. Welcome to CUNY TV Presents, a new series focusing on filmmakers and their extraordinary cinematic work. This segment highlights the exceptional talent of Newmark J School filmmakers. Through a collection of documentaries, you'll journey across the boroughs to experience the diverse and vibrant life of New York City. Let me introduce you to our panel of filmmakers. Sophia Lebowitz, a journalist and documentary filmmaker, is a graduate of Newmark J School's documentary program. She has held a range of positions at major media companies and has had films showcased at major festivals like Doc NYC. Sophia is currently a reporter at Streets Blog, and she is developing a new documentary. Natalie Pena Peart is a graduate of Newmark J School's doc program. She is a Caribbean American working in many facets of media. Her documentary Black Gold also played at Doc NYC, and she was the producer of the award-winning podcast The Stoop. Currently, Natalie is an associate producer at Pineapple Street Studios, where she worked on another award-winning podcast, Ghost Story. Meron Tebeje is a multimedia storyteller and memory worker, currently studying at the Newmark J School's doc program. She began her journey in photography and videography in order to document community organizing and direct actions. She seeks to illuminate the stories that matter to her community. Welcome all.
Thank you.
Well, let's get right into it. Sophia, why don't we start out with you? Tell me about your film, what it's about, and how did you find the story?
So my film is called Piled Up, and it's a short documentary about Anna Sachs, who posts under the social media handle The Trash Walker. And she's a dumpster diver in New York City, and she goes around and goes through the trash almost every night and takes videos and exposes just the problem that we have with waste in the city, but also the problem that large companies have with throwing out usable items.
Do you mind if I do a TikTok? Outside in New York City Public School, all these meals in the trash. I think I could see the trash walker as an extension of myself. I mean, I'm Anna, and the trash walker is the username that I use. When I show the video of the overabundance and the amount that we waste, I think there's definitely like raising consciousness, which then can lead to legislation and to better systems. It started with the recycling, since they're in see-through bags.
Natalie, how about you?
My film, Black Gold, is about, it follows a urban farmer, Jay Lee, and a composter. And I started this film because Jay and I are part of the same community garden. And one day I walked into the garden and I saw her cutting up food scraps, which I had never seen before, and I asked, "What are you doing?" And the rest is history. And so the film follows her as she starts this composting operation, which then becomes kind of a community composting operation, and then is shut down by rats.
Right, I remember the film like shifted
Right.
because of these developments.
Yes, yeah, and I mean, it's just so funny. I mean, people in New York anyway have a lot of feelings about compost. So, but you know, Jay has a whole philosophy around your food scraps are actually not garbage, and this is like a small part that we play in taking care of. Well, compost is a soil amendment, but taking care of the earth. She really views herself as someone who is here to steward and take care of the planet.
Amazing to have that story in, you know, the metropolis of New York, a person who was committed to those ideas.
You're asking me to explain something I don't understand. When there's this buzzing, it's like the buzzing of, in the garden, of, oh, rodent food scraps, it starts to marry and buzz and buzz. The more I'm like gonna walk away from that, I myself do the thing of like you know, which is good and bad, is I'm not listening to stuff like that because I need to create the reality I believe in, which is recycling food scraps, organics back in the earth, feeding the earth, and loving the microorganisms and loving our earth.
Meron, how about you? Tell me about your film.
Yeah, Love Soldier is a short about Britton Smith, who is the lead singer of Britton and the Sting. They're basically like a neo-spiritual gospel soul funk band, I would call them. I actually went to their show at Baby's All Right in Williamsburg, and it was a residency. I actually didn't know who they were at first. I went to their show and I was like, wow, this is so amazing. I kind of had this chance to do a profile piece, and I thought like, oh, let me just see if I can reach out, and it kind of worked out. And it's about kind of his journey in music, growing up in the church, growing up in Texas, and like kind of the culture that he was brought up in, and how he kind of came to like theater, and then now like has transitioned into music making and bringing back kind of like a spiritual space for queer and trans people to kind of congregate in this like alternative way. Yeah, and their music's amazing and everyone should listen.
Doesn't he call it a nasty funk band?
Yeah, he calls it a nasty funk band. Yeah.
Soprano in the church. I was a male soprano and I was killing it. And I was just having this conversation because I was just singing the part that was right for me. I didn't notice that it was a lens into like judgment. People be like, look at that little boy singing in the soprano section. It's cute when you're like 8, but then when you're still a soprano, when you're like 12, people are like, he a little sweet. He more than a soprano. He's a sweet little boy. And then all that joy you get from like feeling like you that dude and you know how to sing in a church gets so muddy and it's so harmful. When I go up, will I sit down? When I go inside, am I big enough? Am I strong enough? Am I wise enough? Brave enough? Brave enough? High enough to fly to the moon?
Tell me a little bit about the process of making the film. Like, how did you, how did you decide what to shoot?
Yeah.
When did you realize, you needed something different? Or tell me a little bit about the process.
Yeah, the process was a little difficult because he's busy, and honestly, like we made a scheduled time to sit down and I knew I wanted to catch them rehearsing because I wanted to see their dynamic and how they kind of played together outside of like being on a stage. And then I was like, okay, I need to go to another show, which I was like more than happy to because it's like such a carefree space and like everyone really enjoys being there. It's like, everyone's dancing and like their hit song is like, let's get drunk and go to church. And like everyone just like turns up. It's like a really nice vibe. I wanted to get more with him, but he just didn't have the time. And so I looked into archival, like social media, and I okayed it with him, and I kind of just got it, like put it together to create like a short profile. Yeah.
Great. Sophia, what about you? Tell me a little bit about your process.
So I started, like I said, with just going on these walks with her, with Anna, the protagonist of my film. And I was just filming everything at the beginning. And that was really like the whole summer of me just meeting up with her like once a week and walking with her and seeing what we find, because every day is super different. And I knew that wasn't enough for like a story of the film, but that was kind of the start. And then I started to learn more about Anna and her life and her goals, which is sort of what ended up shaping the film, because so there was sort of 3 layers. One layer was the street and just like city portrait of the street. One layer was the trying to make change on a systemic level, and the other layer was sort of the personal, like how this affects her personally, the buildup of all the stuff.
Wonderful. What were some of the challenges that you faced in making this film?
I think it was so one thing I learned about Anna was that she was a super perfectionist and has everything she does, she's so intense about, which is great. And she's so smart and like like you talk to her and she's like an encyclopedia of things that she cares about. But there was also this, you know, we're on a time crunch making a student film, and I was thinking, okay, I need to film her doing these things that she says she wants to do, but it wasn't always happening as quickly as I wanted to because she was such a perfectionist and she was, you know, on her own schedule, which of course, you know, it's her life. But so that was sort of a challenge, which I think made the film focus less on that legislative action, which when I pitched the film in class, I thought initially it would be a film about her starting this coalition and pushing to get this stuff, and it would be sort of like that type of thing, and it ended up being more about, okay, this stuff really builds up in her life and she has a really hard time dealing with the emotional weight of like all the waste that she sees and collects and thinks about all day, every day, and that really hinders her ability to like get other things done. So that the challenge actually made the film, I think, a lot more emotionally compelling. But yeah, it was definitely hard to have that time crunch of the school schedule, which we both know about.
Exactly. That's great. So really seeing how your initial idea always changes and depending on, you know, a myriad of things, but going with it. And a lot of times it actually makes it a better film, as you just said. Natalie, what about you? Tell me about the process, your process a little bit.
What was challenging was she's extremely private, and I think like rightly so, and I kind of want to honor that too. And so I think maybe should, but it's something I'm always thinking about is like creating some kind of safety, I think, because I'm often really close to this people that I'm wanting to like film or document in some way, whether it's audio or whether it's film. So.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of, that's a lot of sort of ethical issues that we deal with in documentary, how to, you know, push your subjects, but also respect them.
Right.
You're filming in your own community, but you're also telling this story. In terms of the conflict, how'd you figure out how to make that part of the story and how much part of the story that it was?
Yeah, I feel, I'm going to answer you honestly, and I feel like I went soft on the conflict part, just because there were too many. I think there were too many things that on the other side of it, I don't think I would have felt good, and I don't think. And when I say good, I really just mean like that I had sort of taken care of everyone who so graciously let me film. So, yeah, I think it ended up being more about sort of centering Jay's philosophies, how she got to, which is also a pretty interesting story. I mean, she worked at MoMA for 7 years doing design. I mean, she has such a way with beauty and designing things, and that also is really a part of how she gardens too and farms. And so that was a part of, it was like, you know, part profile of her, and then, you know, her beliefs around what people think of as garbage and waste, food waste, and it's not.
Yeah, we had actually a moment where I think both of our protagonists were like in the same event or something.
Yeah,
like
something like that.
You
yeah.
filmed an event that Anna was at, or I filmed something that was about compost, or it was. There was definitely overlap of our interests, which was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. I'm curious, with your films, did you show it to your main characters? Your main participants? And what was the reaction? What was that like?
Yeah, so I also had like a little bit of a, how much do I include? I feel like there's always like something in the film that maybe is sensitive. For me, with Anna, it was her like hoarding tendencies and the way it affected her family. So, and that ended up being kind of a focus point of the film, or sort of like the emotional arc of the film. And yeah, I went over to her house, we watched it together. I was freaking out because I thought it was great, and really, you know, it was such a positive light because I feel so positively about her, but you're just always nervous. I'm always nervous for that. and she liked it. She really was, yeah, she responded to it positively. She came when it screened at Doc NYC, which was really cool. Everyone was like so excited to meet her. We got to take pictures like we were celebrities on the step and repeat thing, so that was fun. But yeah, it went well. I don't know, what about you?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jay was also pretty happy, and I think surprised that I think there were a lot of nerves during the process, and then started talking about what we were going to film next. So I felt like that was a good, yeah. So yeah, I think the response was pretty good, and I think she wasn't the only one worried about like certain sensitive things being shown and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So so I feel like I have her trust in that capacity.
Yeah.
Amazing. Any lessons from your previous short to your?
Yeah, I think it's time management.
It's always about time management.
Yeah, I feel like there's like never enough time, and and also asking for help. I feel like that is the number one thing. Like I think I've leaned on to a lot of people for like my mentor for emotional support, like my professors, my friends to help with us like in CAM, or like just like bouncing ideas off of other people. I think working on that short kind of in a silo with a little bit of support was nice, but it's a short. And now like that this is like a 20-minute kind of short doc, I'm like, okay, I definitely need to, like, things need to be reciprocating, and I need to be more vulnerable in asking others for help. So that's definitely what
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, you know, I'm asking people. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Great. So what did you learn from your process in making Black Gold that you're going to take into your next projects that we'll talk about too, what you guys are doing now, but what do you think your biggest lessons are?
I think that asking for help is such a good one. And yeah, that's something, not to jump ahead, but yeah, even with what I'm filming now, just, you know, reaching out to folks and being vulnerable and open in that way.
And what about you, Sophia?
Yeah, I think being able to go with the flow, like in the way that I explained before, with thinking that you have this idea and then being able to change what the focus of the film is going to be based on what's actually happening and what is actually working. And yeah, I think dealing with Anna, it was just one-on-one, me and her basically negotiating the relationship and what was going to be in, what was not going to be in, what we were feeling, and I feel like we were really on the same page about a lot of things, which is what attracted me to her story, was because I felt really connected to her worldview and like her vision on these things. And I really like working with people where you feel that way versus a sort of antagonistic kind of relationship, which I think can happen too sometimes if you're trying to expose something or something like that.
That's exciting. I can't wait to see that.
Yeah.
Natalie, what about you?
I've been filming for over a year with Lulada Club, which is New York City's all-women's salsa band, co-founded by Andrea Chavarro and Catherine Ocampo. And so, yeah, we've been following them, and it's funny, the bands know each other, the bands play with each other. So I'm still editing and filming a little bit, and then, yeah, getting ready to like pivot into post-production. So
Very exciting.
But they're so fun.
That's
It's
awesome.
such great music.
Yeah, yeah. That's,
Hard not to dance while you're...
yeah, exactly. And make a shaky camera.
Yeah.
Tell me what you learned from making this short last semester that you are, bringing to your process of making the film that you are doing right now. And why don't you tell us a little bit about that film?
Yeah, so it feels like a little different, but maybe similar in like the access point. So the film I'm working on right now is about Tracy McCarter, who is a survivor of domestic violence and was criminalized for killing her husband in self-defense in New York in 2021. So it's kind of about this like love story between her and her husband, and her mourning and grieving kind of someone she loved but was in a cycle of abuse with, and how she basically like was in Rikers, was reached out to by organizers, and they campaigned to support her to get her out of Rikers and to get her charges dropped. And I think she's still processing a lot of what's happened. And yeah, and I grew up in a home with DV, so there is points of empathizing and connecting and understanding that helps with connecting with her. And I've been a community organizer, and that's kind of like how I came to the story, like following her story through the news and through other people that I knew were organizing on the campaign. So yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. It is a lot, and she is a wonderful, like, resilient woman. So,
Amazing.
yeah.
Well, tell us about the film that you're working on now, the project that you're working on now.
Yeah, so I've been working for a couple of years on a film about Las Mariquitas. They're the city's first queer and trans-centered salsa band. I'm working on it with a co-director, Victoria Guillem. She's a friend of mine from college, from undergrad. And yeah, the band is kind of trying to reconnect to the roots of salsa music, and make a safe space for queer and trans people to dance to the music that they grew up loving, but maybe don't want to be in sort of a heteronormative space. And it's really about, it's a big band. Salsa is a big band thing. So there's a lot of people, and just kind of trying to figure out like who to focus on and when. But yeah, it's been a really cool process because we've just gotten to shoot a ton of performances, which I love shooting musicians, which I really liked your project because I think there's just so much there with like getting the feeling of being in that space in the audience of those type of shows that are really where they create this special space for people and trying to capture that. So
Looking back, how do you see your time at Newmark at the J School? What advice would you give to current journalism students, current doc students? Let's start with you, Natalie.
I loved my time at Newmark, I really did. And it is a place of resource, and it was nice to have a place to just come and think and focus on what it was I wanted to make. So I would say be curious about what those resources are, ask people questions, I would say plug in, and start using your equipment early too. So don't be afraid to use your equipment. Just go out and start filming, or if you're recording audio, go and do that. So
Awesome. Meron, what about you as a current student?
Yeah, I'll take their advice, and I guess ask for help. That's literally what I keep learning. But I think that we sometimes come into the program and think that like we're doing our own project or like we have our own vision, and I think that we can sometimes ask others. I think that was hard for me at first, and like now I'm kind of obviously shifting that, and it's like it does help make the story more vibrant and whole, and you can reciprocate that back to others, and it's relationships. I think that's essentially the biggest part. Yeah.
Awesome. Sophia?
yeah, I would say very specifically in regards to like making your doc capstone, don't be afraid to show it to as many people before you're finished, like friends, family members, random people at the school who don't do documentary, especially people who don't do documentary, because I think that's where my film really unlocked, was when I just sat down and showed it to all my roommates. And I realized there were a lot of things that made no sense to people that didn't know the story. And I was just in my own zone, just editing and thinking that it all made sense, and then showing it to people who had no idea really unlocked a lot of questions that needed to be answered, and it was just super helpful. So I would say show it to as many people as possible, and get that feedback, because you're making it for other people to watch.
Well, I'm super excited to see those films. I'm super excited to see your work as well, your new film. And that is all the time we have for today. So I want to thank you guys for coming in, for introducing us to these dynamic, intriguing people throughout New York City, and for sharing your own incredible experiences as storytellers. I hope everyone at home enjoyed today's conversation. You will certainly be captivated by the documentary films that will follow. Please invite your friends and family to watch with you. And thanks for watching.